Hello, especially for the Dirty Secrets channel.
Sara Keller stood at her mailbox, rain pattering on her umbrella, as she examined the cream-colored envelope between her fingers. The handwriting was unmistakable, elegant yet forceful, with dramatic loops on the capital letters. A handwriting she hadn't seen in 15 years. Martin. Inside was an invitation to a reunion at his lake house, where their group of 5 friends had spent countless summers during college. The same lake house where everything had fallen apart that final August. The same place she had sworn never to return to. She should throw it away. Her therapist would advise against reopening old wounds. Yet something stopped her. Perhaps curiosity. Perhaps a masochistic desire to confront the ghosts that still haunted her dreams. One weekend, she whispered to herself. One weekend to finally put it all to rest. The drive took 5 hours, each mile increasing the pressure in Sara's chest. Memories surfaced like debris after a storm. Laughter around bonfires, secret conversations on the dock, Martin's hand on her shoulder. And beneath it all, the undercurrent of what came later. Her GPS announced her arrival as the gravel crunched beneath her tires. The house looked smaller than she remembered, its once vibrant blue paint now weathered to a muted gray. Time had claimed it, just as it had claimed parts of her. Before she could change her mind, the front door opened. Martin stood there, his familiar silhouette backlit by the warm glow from inside. He was thinner now, his once boyish face carved with lines of experience. "Sara," he said, his voice carrying across the yard. "You came." They were all there. Eliza, now a successful surgeon with carefully hidden insecurities. Thomas, whose alcoholism had been replaced with an almost evangelical sobriety. Cameron, whose easy charm masked the same old calculating ambition. And Martin, their de facto leader, who had brought them together then and now. To reunions, Martin proposed a toast during dinner, crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier. And to healing old wounds. Sara noticed how they all avoided mentioning Rebecca, the 6th member of their group, the one whose absence had defined them for 15 years. Later, as they sat around the fireplace, the conversation flowed more easily, lubricated by wine and nostalgia. They spoke of careers, marriages, divorces, the safe topics of middle age. But beneath the pleasantries, Sara sensed an unspoken purpose. Martin hadn't gathered them here for mere reminiscence. "I have a proposition," Martin announced after breakfast the next morning. A game of sorts. They sat around the same oak table, where they had once played cards until dawn. Now, Martin placed 5 sealed envelopes before them. Inside each envelope is a secret, something one of us has kept hidden from the others. Something from that summer. The air in the room became heavy, charged with sudden tension. For 3 days, we will each confront one secret. By the end, perhaps we can finally let go of what happened. "This is absurd," Thomas protested, though his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Martin challenged. "Haven't we carried these burdens long enough? 15 years is a lifetime to live with ghosts." Sara's mouth went dry. "What if we refuse?" Martin's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then you'll never know what the others have been hiding. About Rebecca. About that night." Eliza drew the first envelope. Her hands trembled slightly as she broke the seal. "I knew about the affair," she read aloud, then looked up, confusion clouding her features. "What affair?" The silence that followed was answer enough. All eyes turned to Cameron, whose confident facade cracked slightly. "Rebecca and I," he began, then faltered. "It wasn't serious. A few weeks that summer before she died," Sara finished for him, the words hanging in the air like an accusation. "Why keep it secret?" Thomas demanded. Cameron's laugh was hollow. "Because she was Martin's girlfriend. Because we all pretended to be such good friends." Martin's expression remained unreadable. "Continue, Cameron. Tell them the rest." "The night she died, we'd argued. She wanted to tell Martin everything. I told her it would destroy the group." The weight of this revelation settled over them all. Rebecca's accidental drowning had never made sense. She was too strong a swimmer, too careful. "Did she?" Sara couldn't finish the thought. "I don't know," Cameron whispered. "I've asked myself that question every day for 15 years. That night, Sara found Martin alone on the dock, a glass of whiskey dangling from his fingers as he stared into the dark water. "You knew," she accused. "All this time, you knew about Rebecca and Cameron." "Yes." His admission came without hesitation. "Then why bring us here? Why force us to relive it all?" Martin turned to her, his eyes reflecting the distant moonlight. "Because knowing isn't enough, Sara. There's a difference between knowing and understanding, between understanding and forgiving." "I'm not sure some things deserve forgiveness." "Perhaps not," he conceded. "But don't we deserve release?" She wanted to argue, to scream that his philosophical platitudes couldn't justify the manipulation. But underneath her anger was exhaustion. 15 years of carrying a burden she hadn't fully acknowledged. "What's in my envelope, Martin?" she asked finally. His smile was sad. "You'll find out soon enough." Thomas drew the next envelope at lunch, his newly sober clarity making him both more vulnerable and more perceptive. "I saw you that night, but I said nothing," he read, then looked up sharply. "Who wrote this?" Sara felt the blood drain from her face. She had hoped, prayed, that this particular secret would remain buried. "I did," she admitted quietly. "Saw what exactly?" Eliza pressed, leaning forward. Sara closed her eyes, transported back to that night, the sound of raised voices carrying across the water, a splash, then silence. "I was walking back from the boathouse. I saw Thomas and Rebecca arguing on the dock. It was heated. Then I left." "You left?" Cameron's voice rose incredulously. "I was drunk," Sara defended, though the excuse sounded hollow even to her own ears. "I assumed it was just another drama. By the time I heard what happened, it was too late." Thomas had gone pale. "We weren't arguing about what you think. She was confronting me about my drinking. Said she was worried I'd kill myself if I didn't stop." "So what happened after I left?" Sara asked, a desperate edge to her voice. "She walked away. Alive. I swear it." His eyes pleaded for belief. "I passed out on the dock. When I woke up, the search parties were already looking for her." The afternoon stretched into uncomfortable silence, each of them processing the new pieces of the puzzle. Sara escaped to the porch, trying to reconcile what she now knew with what she'd believed for so long. Eliza joined her, offering a cigarette, a habit neither had indulged in since college. "We were all so wrapped up in our own drama," Eliza mused, exhaling smoke into the crisp air. "Each of us seeing only fragments of the whole." "What do you think happened to her?" Sara asked. Eliza considered the question carefully. "I think Rebecca was tired of carrying everyone else's secrets. Martin's expectations, Cameron's infidelity, Thomas's self-destruction. Even yours. Mine." Sara's heart skipped a beat. Eliza's eyes were knowing. "We all saw how you felt about Martin, including Rebecca." The words hit like a physical blow. All these years, Sara had thought her unrequited feelings for Martin had been her own well-kept secret. "You think I would have hurt her over that?" Sara whispered, horrified. "No," Eliza said gently. "But secrets have weight, Sara. And Rebecca was drowning in ours long before she entered that lake." The next morning, it was Cameron's turn. His hand was steady as he opened the envelope, his face a practiced mask of neutrality. "I found the note," he read, then looked questioningly at the group. Martin stood, walking to a bookshelf where he retrieved a weathered copy of The Great Gatsby, Rebecca's favorite book. From between its pages, he withdrew a folded piece of paper. "Her suicide note," Martin said simply, placing it on the table. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. For 15 years, they had believed Rebecca's death was an accident, or at worst, the result of their collective negligence. "Where did you find this?" Thomas demanded. "In her room the day after. I kept it because I couldn't bear the thought of what it meant. That despite being surrounded by people who supposedly loved her, she felt alone enough to." Martin couldn't finish. For the first time since they'd arrived, his composure cracked, revealing the raw grief beneath. Sara reached for the note, but Martin placed his hand over hers. "Are you sure you want to read it? Some truths don't set us free, Sara. They just give us different chains." That evening it was Sara's turn. The envelope felt impossibly heavy in her hands. "I know what you did," she read aloud, her voice barely audible. She looked up to find Martin watching her intently, not with accusation, but with a terrible understanding. "What is this?" she demanded. "You tell me, Sara," he replied softly. The memory she'd suppressed for 15 years came rushing back with cruel clarity. Finding Rebecca alone by the lake after everyone had gone to bed. Their argument about Martin. Rebecca's taunting revelation that he would never love Sara the way she wanted. The push, impulsive, unintended, but devastating in its consequence. The splash. The panic. Sara running back to the house, constructing an alibi, playing the concerned friend when Rebecca was discovered missing the next morning. "I didn't mean to," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "It was an accident." "I know," Martin said. And somehow his forgiveness was more devastating than condemnation would have been. "How long have you known?" she asked. "I suspected after they found her body. I've been certain since I saw your face when you arrived here." Dawn found them gathered on the dock. Rebecca's note burned to ashes, their secrets laid bare. The lake stretched before them, peaceful and indifferent to the human drama it had witnessed. "What happens now?" Thomas asked, the question that had haunted them all. "Now we choose," Martin answered. "We can go to the authorities with what we know, or we can accept that justice after 15 years may not look like what we imagine." Sara stood at the edge of the dock, the same spot where a moment's anger had destroyed 2 lives, Rebecca's and her own. "I'll turn myself in," she said quietly. "I've been imprisoned by this secret long enough." Eliza placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're all complicit in different ways. Perhaps true atonement means living better lives in her memory." They stood in silence as the sun rose fully over the water, casting long shadows behind them. 5 friends bound by tragedy, finally facing the truth that had defined them. Later, as they packed to leave, Sara found Martin in Rebecca's old room, now a sparse guest bedroom with no trace of the vibrant woman who had once occupied it. "Was any of this real?" she asked. "Or just another manipulation?" Martin considered her question. "Does it matter? The truth found its way out regardless." She nodded, understanding finally that closure wasn't something granted, but something earned through the painful work of confronting one's darkest self. As they left the lake house, perhaps for the last time, Sara felt the weight she'd carried for 15 years begin to shift. Not disappear, not lessen, but transform into something she could finally acknowledge, and someday, perhaps even forgive. The ghosts would always be there, but now at least they had names.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the story, like, subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Thank you.